Welcome. I'm Jacquie Molloy from Meaningful Aging Australia, and as we begin today's session, as always, let's start with our acknowledgement of country. As I do, you can also acknowledge the lands you are joining us from today in the chat. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. For the Meaningful Aging team, that's the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and we pay our respects to elders past and present. We recognise their continuing connection to land and waters and the animals who live there, and to community. We honour the enduring strength and spiritual resilience of First Nations peoples. Today is the second episode of our conversation series, The Shadow of Aging, Making Friends with Time, and we are back with friend and special guest, Kim Thoday. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you very much for your welcome there, Jacquie, and a big hello to everybody. Thank you for your just your being present, and I come today to you all from the Ghana, land of the Ghana people of the Adelaide Plains, and we're getting a lot of rain. Let me tell you, on those plains at the moment.
Aha.
It is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Amazing for Adelaide. It's
Yeah,
actually raining and there's a heck of a lot of it.
very good.
So thank you. Yeah, I just thought, Jacquie, I might do a little bit of a recap as we had discussed just on the shadow of
Yeah.
aging. Is that okay if we kind of
Hmm.
start out that way?
Let's do that.
Alrighty. So I thought this might be a useful way to do a recap from where we were last time. And I want to just talk about what I think some of the things that I've been learning and continue to learn about the shadow work. And as Jacquie has come up with this, great idea of the shadow part of aging. And I think how I'd like to do it is to talk about some of the things that it's been teaching me, this work, and what I would focus on. So number one, I would say that the shadow um, teaches us that suffering and loss and death are a part of life, actually. Uh, to kind of put it in a really kind of simple way, a nice simple way, it's a reminder that actually, and it's a good reminder because it's a countercultural thing to say, I think, that aging is a part of life. Um, Viktor Frankl, that famous neurologist and psychiatrist and survivor of Auschwitz, puts it this way. He once said, and I'll slow this down, okay? He once says that suffering ceases to be suffering the moment it finds meaning.
Mm.
Suffering ceases to be suffering the moment it finds meaning. He actually said in a sense or in senses. So he's very careful with it. He's saying there is more. And I think he was also wanting to be careful not to say, hey, that suffering in of itself is a really good thing. Okay. That's my take on the way. Have a look at that quote, maybe yourself. But he also goes on to say quickly, he says, without suffering and death, human life cannot be complete. And he
Mm.
also says, because he was a bit of a philosopher, as these famous people often are like this. He says that it's this shadow. This shadow is the central theme of existentialism, which is to continue the quote, which is to live, he says, is to suffer.
Mm.
To survive, though, it's a beautiful quote. To live is to suffer, but to survive is to find meaning in the suffering. And very quickly, otherwise I said to Jacquie before, just just pull me up because I'll tend to go on. But there's just a quick few more little points in the recap. So number two, I would say for me, the shadow part of aging teaches us to take our mortality seriously. It gives us time to do that. The shadow does, if it's working. If we're working on the shadow, teaches us to be more conscious of our mortality. Number three, uh, the shadow teaches us to manage our limitations, our brokenness, and our vulnerabilities. And I think Jackie would have a lot to say about that because we were talking about that a moment ago. And number four, the shadow teaches us or teaches me to begin the process of transcending our own ego, or especially our
Mhm.
egocentrism in our world today. And I love can I just finish with this, Jackie, please? Richard Rohr, can I just bring the great Catholic pastor and theologian, Australian? He puts it this way, and I think this for me, I just want to say summarizes about what that transcending the ego might look like. He says that we need to get, in our age, we need to get used to these things again. To begin to be reminded that life is hard. Number one, he says. Number two, you are going to die. Number three, you are not that important. Not that important. You've got to be careful with the emphasis. You are not that important. You are definitely not in control, he says. And lastly, life is not just about you. Well, dear friends, they're the things uh, for a bit of a recap that I wanted to just kick off with today. That's enough from me. Thanks, Jackie. Back over
Oh,
to you.
thank you for an excellent recap indeed. And I'm going to apologize here and now for my voice. I'm getting over a head cold. So apologies that it's a bit come and go. Um, but let's talk about time as well as the shadow of aging. Let's bring in this
Mm.
concept of making friends with time. And I was reminded earlier this week that the ancient Greeks had two words for time, one being chronos and the other kairos. Now, why that's interesting to us today is because chronos is the time that we take for granted, the time that just goes on. It's very logical, ordered, predictable. It happens. That time is chronos. Kairos is that there is a perfect time for something, a perfect opportunity for something. And so it suggests that we are on the lookout for that, to know it when we see it, to be able to step into that time. And I think I've heard you, Kim, refer to this almost as the endless now. You
Mm.
know, this sense of if we stay fully present, then we will be alert to this concept of kairos, of perfect timing, perfect opportunity. What does that mean for us in terms of aging? Well, that's a good question because if we have been looking at the shadow and some of the things that that means and requires us to give up, to shed along the way, then what are the potential opportunities? What is the way that time could be our friend? That's what we're wanting to explore today.
Mm.
Kim, what do you think about that? Making friends with
Yeah,
time.
that's really great, doesn't it? Thank you. I think because I want to acknowledge John Swinton here again, in where yeah, I'm drawing a little bit on on John's work in more recent times, I think, in this area. And of course, it presupposes, and I think he's right, that we've kind of made an enemy of time
Mm.
in many ways, and that maybe that's more to do with the chronos, the time that we are allowing to measure us and what we do. We're giving time almost kind of a godlike quality, or perhaps
Yes.
the opposite to God. In fact, perhaps it's a demonic form of time in the sense of, I don't mean superstitiously, but in the sense of demonic as what it really means to be split off, split away in a theological way, split off from God or split off from ourselves. That splitting up of our lives into segments. Yeah, I think time, the other form of time that you're talking about is that which wants to, that is a symbolic rather than
Mm.
chronological.
Mm.
That uh, rather than a diabolical, symbolic. Rather than demonic, symbolic. That which brings us together. So, yeah, you're right. I think of the eternal now being in the moment kind of thing. I think for me that's where I see a real link actually between the shadow work and making. Yeah, I think one flows into the other. I think the
Yeah.
more actually we rest in the shadow and do that work, guess what? The more we actually slow time down. But of course, this is all metaphorical in a way, because
Yes.
ti time, of course, as Swinton reminds us, and many scientists and so on, time is something we have invented it's a construct actually. Time seems like it is moving forward. That's an intuitive way of looking at the world, the passing of seasons. But in our world, of course, we have made it into something that kind of marches on almost unrelentingly.
Yeah.
But I think, don't we? I mean, I'd love to hear from other people on this. Even though we live in this world that is measured not just in terms of hours, but minutes and seconds and milliseconds, really, in our digital age of measuring time, don't we still have those moments at times? At times, it's hard to even get rid of the language, isn't it? Don't we have those moments when we know that there is something else? When we know that maybe time doesn't just go in one direction or maybe moves in multiple different
Mm.
directions all at once. Don't you get that feeling sometimes that we are part of actually something bigger that is even beyond time? Um, yeah, and it is there in our language because you have you have the self-help people around the place telling us more and more to have quality of time. Now that's interesting,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So what if I'm suggesting, what if rather than quantity, time is quality? What if it turns out that time is in the end a state of consciousness, in fact, or a state of being? There you go. That would be my
That's
that'd
yeah.
be that'd be a few stabs in the half dark.
Because um you can make more time. When you need it, you can make more time by giving something up,
Yeah.
by deciding not to do something. Um, you can
Hmm.
increase the quality by removing some of the quantity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes. How beautiful. So it just comes back to me, Swinton has this thing of living in the memories of God. I think that's that's the title of one of his more recent books.
Wow.
What if it turns out that time is more about living in the memories of God?
That's a big, that's a big
Yeah, it is,
concept.
isn't it? Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
it's a thought.
it
It's
is a
more it's more than a thought. He's written a book about it.
thought. I can see some of the chat going, so I'm just going to have a look at that. Just
Somebody just put about dementia. You're absolutely right. Of course, that's a big area of his
mm,
work as a disability theologian. Sorry, I'm not sure who wrote. I just saw that flash across the screen, and
Sally
and
did.
and Swinton, of course, has worked as a chaplain in that area. Yeah, with people with dementia and so on. Yeah.
The Sabbath by Abraham Joshua Heschel does some deep and very thoughtful work on
Mm.
time, says Jill.
Thank you, Jill. Yeah, that's true.
um, how can we Oh, hang on. Here we go. One thing around time. Sometimes I feel like I've wasted too much time not doing what I should or could have done in my life. I think that's a very shared sentiment, I believe. How can we and those older people we help come to the realization that actually there are no wasted years? We still have time. Mm, there are no wasted years. I love the expression and sentiment that everything has led us to this moment. So, in the sense of, would you go back and change something about your life? And the attitude of, I wouldn't, because every choice that I've made has led me here to what I know and believe, to where I am today. Um, that's an attitude that has to be cultivated because it's very easy to feel. Um, I didn't notice who wrote this. Oh, it's Sally. It's Sal. Hi, Sal. Um,
Mhm.
because this feeling of wasting time, um, and having wasted time, I think is so seductive. It's so easy to want to rewrite the past, to somehow take back into in time what we know now, like as the mature individuals that we are now, take that back and somehow do over or redo something. Um, so it's a hard attitude. It's a hard attitude to cultivate, this sense of nothing has been wasted. There are no wasted years. What do we
That's
have to look forward to?
that's great. I was just going to say to you, back to you there, that that really reminds me of what we were talking about before, Jackie, about identity, doesn't it? Do you want to
Mm,
say anything? It's a great link into that, isn't it? To
yeah,
about our identity.
yeah,
If we start trying to, in a sense, surgically remove things or forget, or yeah, you know what I'm saying, from
yeah,
the past, even some of the really difficult things, even some of the
yes.
really intense pain, what does that actually do to our identity, really?
Yeah, that's right. The thing about identity is that losing or changing our identity as we age, particularly from being the productive person in society, and I really put big quotes around that because we are all aware here in our community that it's possible to be productive beyond that, um, and have meaning and purpose. Um, but a lot of us move from that world of work and find that we're not that person anymore. We can't claim to be that person anymore. And that comes with some sadness around confidence, a lack of confidence that can create. Um, it's a it's a hard one because, and I think I shared this last time. Um, you know, I found it myself when I stopped working in corporate. I didn't realize how much of my identity was wrapped up in that until it was over. And then I had that, you know, that anxiety of who am I now? And I think we've all experienced some version of who am I now? And apologies. Um, and I think to Sal's question, how do we parlay that? Who am I now? To a feeling of we still have time. There is still time to think about that question, to discover that question, to discover new things. There's more in the chat.
There is. Go for it. That's great.
Mm. Liz says, what do people from other cultures think about time and aging, and what can we learn from them? Very good question. Very good question. And Cheryl says, a hard attitude to cultivate indeed. Regrets are real. Regrets are real. Boy, yes.
Yep,
I mean,
I got plenty.
that's part of the shadow too, isn't it, Kim?
Yeah,
It's all
absolutely. And
the
don't we see that
catalogue
in,
of regrets.
and we see it so much. Those who are working in aged care would come across this all the time. I know I do. And I certainly know it within myself.
Mm.
Mhm. So, anyway, yep.
If time of life is about quality, not quantity, how do we uplift the person who is troubled with illness and sickness and has been contemplating about killing oneself?
Mm. Yes. Well, that's what a great,
Yeah.
really good on you and an extremely confronting question. As somebody said to me last year, I had a very well-meaning supervisor who will remain nameless say to me right in the middle of some of the most difficult family trauma that I've ever personally encountered in my life. But Kim, he said, are you still flourishing?
Oh,
By, by the way, I don't know about others, but that's a bit of a buzzword now.
flourishing.
You've got to be, yes, on the well-being
Oh.
circuit. I'm sure you'll hear it. Now, I don't want to completely can that. By the way, I think it's not a bad thing to be flourishing now and again.
And to aspire to, surely, yes.
But
Yes.
I said, no, actually, I'm not, mate. I'm not bloody well flourishing. Um, Not at
Yeah.
the moment. And anyway, what does that mean? I did calm down a little bit later and said, "What? By the way, what did you know? What? It's all very well to tell me to flourish, or I should be flourishing, but what do you actually mean by that?"
Yes.
He wasn't expecting that at all. But yeah, I I think this is where, for me, I would just say that, hey, some of the best insights still that I have in this area come from Viktor Frankl,
Mm,
and it's not to say that, hey, pain and suffering, especially pain, and that we have two different words deliberately, but they overlap a bit. It's not to say that those things are something that, hey, we want to have, you know, uh, truckloads of so that we can be martyrs. I happen to think that's a very unhealthy way of kind of being. That's my
yeah,
own personal view. But I think sometimes the shadow teaches us teaches us that we have to um, really be attentive to that suffering, and that it's part, grief and suffering and loss are part of life, and we have to manage that, and we need people around us to help us, the right people around us to help us, not be just left alone. I think that's an important thing. I think that's what some other cultures would teach us. Whoever asked that really good question. Western individualism is a real problem. There's many aspects to this. There's many spokes to the wheel, I think. But Viktor Frankl, in the end, I think, has got something to say still when he says that, when we really do begin to um, find life and truly survive the trauma, and
yeah,
it is when we actually do find genuine meaning, that our lives in spite of the regrets, in spite of the regrets that we still carry, um, there is worth and value to my life, but more than the individualism stuff, that there is value to life still. There is meaning there.
yeah,
And there is a ground to that meaning. It's not just a construct. Somebody made the really good comment before too, that the whole quality of life thing is still being largely measured from the chronological view of time.
yes.
Whoever said that, a really big thumbs up there. I couldn't agree more. And
Um,
I probably didn't unpack that enough, but anyway, but thank you for that reminder.
I'm just going to say this is something that Sally noticed when you were talking about flourishing, which is so true. Being asked if you're flourishing puts a huge burden on someone who is already down. It really does, doesn't it? It's not, there's nothing uplifting about that. Excuse me. There's a lot going on in the chat, everybody. If you're not in the chat, please do have a look. I know that Sal has put all of the titles that are relevant from Richard Rohr, John Swinton, I think you've put some in, and Viktor Frankl. There's some articles that others have linked in the chat. So please make sure to have a look. Um, I'm just having a quick look here.
What's Marnie saying there? It's a member only resource. What's that one? Was that to everyone or just, yeah, I think it was.
Yes, what to say to people who say they want to end their life.
Uh-huh.
We do
Yep.
have a resource for
Yep.
members. Um, I'm going to put Marnie on the spot and say to contact Marnie for more information about that.
Yeah. Good. Thanks, Marnie. Great. Really important pickup there.
I'm aware of the time. It's 1:29. So let's open for some questions
Oh, I love this one
as
here,
we wrap
Liz.
up.
Yes, perhaps we could ask people what they think. Sorry, I've missed it now. What was
Uh,
that one? Can you see
Perhaps
that?
we could ask people who are struggling what joy
Mm,
would look like for them, which is terrific.
mm.
That's sometimes our imagination is our best friend. Imagining what can bring us joy can put us on the path to joy.
Well, and you know, I'd want to add there that hey, you know, that's getting into this much deeper space, this liminality
Mm,
of, you know, that we've spoken about before, moving even beyond empathy. So not just kind of so that we really are actually, because you know we talk about this, don't we, about needing to hear the voice of the voiceless, how true that is. What a great truth that is. But how to when we're not suffering like that other person is suffering, it's not just about hearing the voice though. It's moving into the space of interpathy,
mhm.
which means kind of getting more than just getting alongside it. It's somehow building a living relationship actually with the
Yeah,
other, with the other,
yeah.
and yeah, that
And
that
being in that
kind of level
moment
of engagement.
together. Yeah.
Pardon? Yeah,
Being in that
yeah,
moment together.
and it takes us back into the shadow work,
Yeah,
really, doesn't it?
yeah,
And we can only do that um, when time is no longer an enemy, because
yes.
often that's what you'll get.
Mm,
You know, how do you do that in your time? How do you do that in your time frame when you've got 50 or 100 people, you know, as a chaplain that you are spreading your life across? How do you? So there are other questions there, of course, that go beyond today.
yes, and how many minutes you're
Hmm.
allotted.
Correct. That's
Yeah.
right.
Mm. All right, everybody. Does someone have a burning question to ask Kim in particular? Um, but a question or a comment or an observation? Liz has just said, then there is radical acceptance of what is. Yes. Sometimes it does have to be radical.
So, yeah, it'd be great to unpack that one, wouldn't it? Some more. So, what is that? What does that look like? The radical acceptance, I would want to say back. Do you have any thoughts on that quickly, Jackie?
That's it's um it's hard actually when you think about it, isn't it?
Mm,
Because it sort of requires a surgical intervention. That's what it feels like. It's like an acceptance closes off all other permutations and possibilities. Um, you can no longer think about any of that because to accept this, it's like making a decision that cuts. That's the original root of the word, isn't it? To decision, I think, is to cut off options, cut off possibilities. Um, and I think that radical acceptance requires that surgical strike around it.
Sorry, I might be a bit dull on this. And sorry, were we talking about radical acceptance of the person or not?
Of what is,
I may have misunderstood there. Yeah,
radical acceptance of what
of the
is,
of what has occurred, what is the
what
person's
is.
situation,
Yes.
the the suffering. Oh yeah, okay.
Radical acceptance of what was and what is
Ah,
now. Mm.
okay. Sorry, that's really helpful. Sorry,
Mm.
that clarifies things.
Yeah.
Because I think also, you know, in the helping and the caring, it's also that a radical acceptance of the other as well. Anyway,
Yeah.
just to throw that in.
And Jill's saying here, which agree,
Yeah.
any surgical intervention involves pain and injury. Hence, how are we supporting self and others to sit in the space of pain and seek their own answers? That's,
Mm.
yeah,
And somebody's talking about compassion and I think forgiveness too. So thank you for those important, not just concepts, but ways of being. Actually, yeah,
yeah,
ways
yeah,
of being. Kindness. Um,
yeah.
yeah, that's got to be part of that radical acceptance, I think.
Making friends with time, we're really making friends with ourselves, aren't we?
For many people, that's very, very difficult. Hey, people
Mm.
will say, I know I'm being a bit rude here, but I do have people sometimes sitting there in front of me telling me how they've got no friends, and I'm stone stumm thinking to myself, yeah, I can see why, quite seriously, you know, because they got, they're not friends with themselves at all, you
No.
know, not at all. No wonder no one wants to hang around them. So, what do you do there? A bit of radical acceptance? Or you do, and I do end up, kind of challenging it actually, eventually. But hey, you got to do that carefully and with compassion. That's right. But sometimes a person needs a friend to actually point out the truth, really.
Yeah,
And we all need some friends like that.
we certainly do. We certainly do. And we need to be that friend for others. Um, I'll leave with this. Oh, the chat's still going off, guys.
Wow, good, 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 good.
Um, a bit new to this. How do we help elderly people confront their shadow if there is no awareness of shadow? Wow.
Well, and maybe it's just, something lost in translation sometimes a bit. I think it's just a matter of, you know, sometimes just pointing a few things out and, gently, gently
It's
kind of
spiritual care, isn't it?
gently kind of explaining what we mean by it. It might be some of that a bit that gets in the way.
Mm.
Um,
It's spiritual care,
yeah,
I think.
yeah. Their narrative or metaphors used may be a good starting point. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
thought. Thank you. Yep.
yeah. Language is a clue,
Yeah,
always.
that's right. That's what I mean about you
Yeah,
know, we need to be a bit hermeneutical. We do. Can
we
I
do.
use that word? Good old Hermes. It's all right. It's not an illness. Sounds like it. I know. But yeah, it's all about that, isn't it? It's unpacking,
Yeah,
unpacking, and
yeah.
unpacking, and unpacking. Yeah.
It's 1:39, everyone. We've got to say goodbye. We will continue this conversation, however, in 1 month from today. Marnie, I didn't write it down. Can you put in the chat, please, the date?
Yes.
Or come online, come off mute and tell us the date. I can tell you it'll be a Thursday. I know,
This
I
is
know the
great.
plan.
You're
Indeed.
just demonstrating your friendship with time. That's brilliant. There it is. That's how it's
Thursday,
happening.
the 14th of May. I'll put the link in the chat, but it'll also be in the replay when we send it out.
That's my dad's birthday. There we go.
Nice. I wish we had more time today for more chat. I don't want it to end.
Yeah. Um, I'm certainly going to copy this chat so that we don't lose all of these wonderful links and ideas. Thank you, everyone, for
Yeah,
participating
thank you. Thank you
so
so much.
beautifully.
Hmm.
That's really fantastic. Thank you again, Kim. As always,
Pleasure.
it's a pleasure.
Likewise, and yeah, grace and peace to everyone who's been here today.
Thank you, everyone. That's it. We'll say farewell and see you hopefully in a month.